Sleep deprivation is the new smoking.
Oh, wow.
It is the most important pillar of health.
You are the co-founder and VP of brand and marketing of 8 Sleep.
You would die sooner of sleep deprivation than food deprivation. A device that is in your bed can save your life.
Mind-blowing.
Women have more challenges to sleep.
I have a lot of things that I need to change.
Is the number one environmental factor that gets in the way of a good night's sleep.
I'm so happy to be home. First of all, a great sign for me because I love here so much that when I travel, it really has to make sense. We just came back from Toronto. We had our team retreat, and I love the little Valeria Inc. bubble that we were in. We got to really reconnect and learn more about each other. I think it's very healthy in work relationships to have moments really come together. But I also love that I don't see everyone every single day. I don't know how people that go to the office every day handle it. I'm just being honest. It's my personality. Like I could never. I remember a time back in Toronto where we had our studio and I would just get to work every morning and just have 10 people around me. And your girl can't do it. I just can't. I know my limits. So very grateful for the structure that we have where, half of us are scattered around the US, the other half is in Toronto, and we get to come together a couple of times a year to really realign and spend time with each other. Something that really struck me at this retreat was just the feeling of pride that I had towards the way this company operates and what we've built, Gary, myself, and Rachel. So you guys know Rachel is the CEO of Valeria Inc. Valeria Inc. is our media company. We do a lot of different things. It's just amazing the kind of values that we follow and the things that we are doing in terms of, thinking forward. Gary and I really took a bet on ourselves when we decided to go for it with Valeria Inc. and to create something and hire a CEO for it. And just seeing, 15, 17 people in that room. Everyone is in different departments, everyone touching different projects and talking about the future of all of it was just really exciting. And then I also had a moment where I pat myself on the back being like, Valeria, I'm so proud of you. This is me talking to myself. Valeria, I'm so proud of you for learning how to let go and let everyone be in their own genius and do what they're good at. And you're not trying to control everything because there was a time when I did. And it really slowed us down. So it was just wonderful to sit and appreciate the progress and the lessons and the challenges and all the good things. And speaking of building something you're proud of, I'm very excited for today's episode because we have Alex Zatarain. She is the co-founder and VP of the brand and marketing for 8 Sleep. We actually have a lot of similarities in our stories because she also co-founded the company with her husband. The reason why I wanted to have Alexandra on is, first of all, she is such a bright, just intelligent, beautiful soul, but also I use 8 Sleep. I have the mattress. And when I've introduced it to our house, I was kind of skeptical because I'm like, oh, it's another gadget. But oh my God, did I fall in love with sleeping and with making sure that my sleep is quality sleep. So I really wanted to hear the story, wanted to understand how all of that evolved because they don't have any background in this space. This is 2 entrepreneurs, just kind of like we're figuring out how do we innovate, what do we do next. Also connected very much to her path. She's not from America. She moved here from Mexico and just her upbringing, something that I'm very much connected to. So just to give you a quick little background, what 8 Sleep is, this product that they've developed that so many athletes use, by the way, is this smart mattress cover that basically monitors your sleep and changes temperatures, and elevations based on whatever your sleep requires, like for a deeper sleep, quality sleep. So an example, we have our cover mattress, and for Gary, it actually elevates him throughout the night if he snores. For me, I get really hot at night, so it actually cools the mattress down. And even though it's a mattress on both sides, each side operates based on the person that lies on that side. So it's revolutionary. I was also very excited to hear what else is coming, the kind of innovation, specifically in the women's health kind of section. You know, I'm very passionate about it. So it was very eye-opening, but also very exciting to hear the kind of progress that is happening in the health optimization space, and also just really inspiring to hear how they basically created a whole new category in their industry. I left feeling, well, obsessed with her, first of all. I was like, we need to do dinner because I want to hear more about you. But also just very grateful for the wonderful minds that we have in the world, in this country, that continue to innovate and make our lives just so much better. So I am excited for you to hear her story, to get inspired, and you're probably gonna fall in love with her as much as I did. Enjoy. I hate doing these intros because it's always so awkward because you feel like you're sitting across the person. I haven't figured it out yet, but Alexandra, you are the co-founder and VP of brand and marketing of 8 Sleep. And the brand is not only redefining like what sleep is, but also how we think about ambition and innovation. And that was the main thing that kind of blew my mind when I purchased my 8 Sleep. When I heard my friends talk about 8 Sleep, there's so many kind of layers to it. But yes, the company, you've built an amazing company. It's like $500 million, no big deal. But what's more interesting to me is how is your upbringing and your early like environment came into play in your journey of like innovation and entrepreneurship? Like, take me there, because you did not grow up in the US.
I did not, no. I was born in California, but I grew up in the border. I grew up in Mexico, in Tijuana. So I don't know how many people you've met who are from Tijuana, but
I think you're the first one.
Yeah. It's an amazing place to grow up. I think I was extremely, extremely blessed and privileged to grow up in such like a country that offers so much. But at the same time, it is a country of contrasts, right? Like my dad came from nothing. Like he didn't finish 6th grade. He had to go to work when he was really young to take care of his family, his siblings, his mom, who, you know, didn't have a father figure. And he moved from Sinaloa, Mexico to Tijuana to like sort of start a life. So like he sort of built a middle class upbringing for us from nothing. And my mom went to med school, like very different paths. And I saw growing up this sort of opportunity, you know, as a word, where my parents were not deterred by anything. And my dad had a business, and, you know, businesses go through a lot of ups and downs. And he did great when we were young, and he lost everything when we were teenagers. And then my mom had to go back into like working full time, like 2 or 3 jobs at a time. And I think that is really ingrained in me as something that like hard work is something that you should feel blessed that you have the opportunity to even have access to jobs that can help you provide for yourself and your family.
I also think about the word struggle when you tell the story, because there's so many, I mean, you see so much struggle around, but I love how you said opportunity is such a thing that you see everywhere. Because you always think about, you know, when you're growing up in environments, depends on the person that you are naturally. Some will look at those environments as like, this is it. There's nothing else other than struggle. And other people will look at it as there's so much. Because what I hear from you is that you also saw a lot of failure, but it was a failure of like, okay, that happened, and then what's next?
Yes.
And your parents just kind of kept on trying and going.
Yeah. And you know, I hadn't
blessing.
realized that, what you just said, which is so true. I think depending on the person you are, you'll see things differently. I hadn't realized that until maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. I was visiting a place in Mexico where I have some family, and I was having breakfast with one of my aunts, and we were having such a deep conversation where she told me, she said, you know, there's like 2 kinds of people in this world. And there's people who will see someone achieving any level of success, anything in life, and they will say, that could be me. And then the other half of people would say like, oh, that could never be me, right? And she told me, it's like, you've always been the person who says that could be me. And so to you, that's like propelled you to just continue to pursue things, and it comes so naturally. And I keep wondering where that comes from. Like I still don't have that answer, but
have you thought like, is this nature versus nurture type of thing?
I think about it so much. Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I do. We're very different. Yeah.
Very different. Okay. So you see, I think it's, probably a combination of both, right? Do you feel like you foster an environment that was supporting of this bigger life, or even the way you think? Now looking back, even the friendships that you made, the people you surrounded yourself with, was it a lot of those kind of
Absolutely. I think I was so blessed with my parents because, I mean, my dad passed away like 10 years ago,
I'm sorry.
Probably, more around right before we started the company. But my mom, even now, like she doesn't fully grasp what it is that I do and how this life works.
I'm sure it's very difficult to explain that there's a company and we're talking about
and that people gave us money and there's these investors and why did they give you this money? But it's not my money, it's the company's, right? Like there's definitely a lot of things I've had to explain, but they've been so supportive, always. Any sort of crazy idea I had when I wanted to go study away from home. I was the first in my family to go to college away from home. I moved away from my hometown. I had to pursue a scholarship to do that. And
where did you go?
I went to school in Mexico, in Monterrey, which is a school called Tecnológico de Monterrey, which is pretty famous in Mexico. And I wanted to go there because they had a great communications school, which is what I wanted to study. I studied communications. I loved marketing and comms and PR and all that side. And my parents were like, you're crazy. We're never going to be able to afford that school. It's quite expensive. I'm like, I'll figure it out. I'll find a scholarship. And they said, well, if you find it and they'll cover everything, you can go.
You can go, yeah.
But they never told me no. And I think even my father, who was of a different generation, and in Mexico, we definitely grew up with a macho culture. He never ingrained in me or my sister that you have to get married or you have to depend on a guy or any of those things. Never. Like it was never discussed. It was never mentioned. You go do whatever you want. You want to do that? It's totally fine. You don't want to do it? It's fine. And I do think that gave me permission in just being myself.
Yeah, because I feel like Mexican, pretty traditional, right?
Yes.
There's certain kind of a timeline that you follow.
Yeah.
I wonder what made him look at the world, like wanting something different for you.
I agree. I don't know. And I never got to ask him that. But I think it's so fascinating because he did grow up in such a different time where the norm was men take care of women and women, get married young and they have kids and it's sort of very traditional. But my parents let us pick whatever we wanted to study in school and what path we wanted to pursue. And I think that worked out for me. It may not have worked out for everyone.
I think that's a magic combination of not saying no. So saying yes, whatever you want, but you find a way.
Yes.
Right? Because you have the support, but then you have to do the work.
Correct. You have to make something happen out of your life. Absolutely. They did set that bar where it's not like they had the money to just be like, hey, you're going to be a trust fund kid and you're going to be fine. Like you have to go and work and you have to go and be like disciplined and whatever you do, you have to do it every day. You have to do it well.
What made you go into communication? Like, did you discover the power of it earlier on in your life?
No, I had no idea about the power, but it's a funny story because I knew since when I was very young, I had a project in school. I love teachers because I feel like they can really, like the right teacher can let you discover a side of you with like the right subjects or the right way of teaching. And I had this class where we had to create, I don't even remember what class it was, like computer or some class where we had to use the computer to create a magazine. And the project was you have to design it, write it, design it, and when you used to go to computer class and learn how to use Microsoft Word. And we had to create like 4 pages of a magazine. And I ended up just going so down this rabbit hole of using my Microsoft Word skills and writing articles. And I obviously used to buy teenager magazines. And so I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to create these amazing magazine. And I ended up making this I still have it. It was like 104 pages.
You still have it?
I still have it.
Oh, that's so cool.
And when I did that project, I went above and beyond because I was just in love with what I was doing. And so I asked my mom, what do I have to study in college to do this for the rest of my life? And she told me, you probably have to do like journalism or communications. I said, that's it.
That's what I'm going to do.
That's what I'm going to do.
So I wonder how the mindset, because you left Mexico at what age?
I had already graduated college, so I was like 22.
Oh, okay. So I feel like that mindset of like, go and figure it out, yes to everything, opportunity is kind of key. Recognizing it was already ingrained in you.
Yes.
So it was kind of easier for you to go out into the world and see what was missing. So I want to know how you got from that point to coming up with 8 Sleep and starting 8 Sleep.
We have to take a bit of a step back because I was still not out of college when I meet my now husband, Mateo, who's one of my co-founders in the company. So we've been together for almost 15 years now. So imagine I was 21. I've given him the best years of my life, I always say. And we meet and, we obviously start dating. He's still living in Italy. I'm living in Miami at the time. Actually, I was doing 1 year of school at the University of Miami. Then I go back to Mexico. We're dating long distance for a year. It was kind of crazy. And then I graduate and I move to New York. He moves to New York and I get a job. I get like my first like real job out of school. And, you know,
in communication journalism, like, no.
Absolutely not.
No,
like,
I don't know. You see, I never went to university, so I don't know how it works. But I hear that you never get the job.
No, exactly. Yeah. No one gets the jobs that they want. And like, you have no experience and who's going to hire me? But I needed a job because when I decided to go move to New York, where my boyfriend was going to be, my parents said, you're on your own. That's where their traditional side came out.
Yes, but figure it out.
Yes. We're not going to give you one penny. You're on your own. I said, okay, I need a job. Mm-hmm. And so I find a job working as an executive assistant for a guy who I'm still, close with. Like, he was my first boss. He was an amazing person. And he had this company in sort of HR and staffing, and he gave me a job. And I chose that job because out of the 2 or 3 interviews that I actually got, he paid me a little bit more than the others, and I just needed the money. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because in that job that I had, we had an office where we shared the space with his best friend's company, which was a tech company. Mm-hmm. So I'm in New York, and this is like 2011, and this is when the Silicon Alley, that they would call it, was really booming. There was this movement of New York being the new tech scene.
Okay.
And there was these companies like the one that was right next to us, where they were building apps and they were building, all these like new tools in the mobile app era, because, the iPhone had really taken off. And so Matteo had a company in a completely different space in renewable energy, started observing this movement. And maybe because of our nature, we start thinking, well, this is interesting. Why don't we just start going to some of these events and start meeting people and understanding what's it like to build things in technology? It was a completely foreign industry for us.
So Matteo didn't have experience with that at all? Okay.
None. We didn't know anything about technology in terms of building a business.
Yeah.
So we spent time going to these like hackathons and these presentations, and it was really a scene because there were a lot of these events every single day. So we would pick like after work, where would we go? And we would just split. And we would speak to different people. So we would say, okay, you go to that side of the room, I go to that side, and like, let's see who we meet. And we would start meeting like engineers and designers, and you start understanding terminology that we had no idea existing, like what's a product manager and what's like UX. And so you learn.
That's what I'm always curious about, especially when, everybody's talking about go out there, network, like learn, understand. But I feel like one of the blockers for a lot of people is like you're putting yourself in this environment where you feel dumb because you don't know anything. Like, how do you even start conversations? What were you asking? How would those conversations look like for you?
Anything. I feel what you're saying because it's true that at some point networking won't build a business. Mm-hmm. But initially, when you are the new person in that category, in that industry, you have to learn. You have to really think like a student. And you
I feel like you're able to also see where are any gaps, right?
Correct.
The more people you talk to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll start understanding where you're different. So one thing I did realize very early on is that with my communications degree, it was probably frowned upon by everyone else who had all these fancy degrees. Right? I was unique because there's not a lot of true comms people and marketers building in technology. And what we understand is different. We understand the consumer, how to bridge that gap, how to tell you a story, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that was missing, that was an opportunity. And so I could offer something that very few other people in all of those rooms had.
Mm-hmm. That's actually brilliant because it's so true. We talk to so many founders, tech founders, and so many of them create great products, but then they don't know what to do with those products and how to get them to market. I like it. What does Matteo, what kind of information was he bringing in?
He's a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And so his mind works very different from mine, which,
That's
plays out well.
Combo.
Yeah. So he was a lawyer. He builds businesses in a completely different space, sort of financial structures for renewable energy projects. And he sold a business in Italy for that when he was young. And then he moved to the US. And so very different path. Mm-hmm. He has always, for business, has taken care of that side, right? Like, how do you really build a business and business model and financial structures and fundraising and hiring, all of those other things as a CEO. But even back then, he's always been sort of the visionary. He's the person who thinks of the riskiest ideas. What you see now of our product, of the pod, it's his mind. He comes up with, well, I want to design a way for people to control it without using a phone. And he creates this, what we call tap to control. You tap it on the side of the bed, it does things for you. And at first, when I hear his ideas, I think this sounds so stupid, but I entertain it. And I don't tell him no. I said, okay, let's prototype it and let's see what it feels like, right? But it's so funny to just see, like, he has so many patents, and also we have another co-founder, Max, is our CTO, and so the two of them together just like make things happen.
Minds coming together. It's so interesting that you say how he comes to you with different ideas, and you just like can't even wrap your head around it. I listened to, I don't even know where it came from, but someone was saying, if you are able to easily explain an idea that you have and the other person doesn't have this, like, what are you even talking about? It means that it's not big enough.
I like that.
Like, it's too basic.
I like that, but I'm not going to tell him because he's going to love it.
Matteo, please don't listen to this part of the podcast. And it made me think about how many people don't follow through on these huge things because it seems and sounds so crazy. It's amazing how you came together and you're like, you know how to...
Grounded.
Yes. Find a way.
There's a balance.
It's not a no.
It's not a no. I always say I entertain it. And I think that's very nice when you work with your partner, which is like entertaining each other's ideas is where then you'll find something that will be like, oh, that brilliant idea, right?
Yeah.
But you have to entertain it and you have to like be able to like ping pong, like they say when you're brainstorming. And we do that a lot. And so at some point when we were going through these hackathons, we like built some things and some like apps, and then we would do it together just over the weekend, him and I would create a website. I was dangerous enough to like create something on HTML and CSS, very basic, but we would have fun. And so we were learning. And one of these learning moments, we were trying to build something in 3D printing. 3D printing was booming. This was, I don't know, maybe like 2013. And there was a company based in New York called Shapeways. And they were offering where you could just submit any design and you could 3D print anything. And they had started to offer 3D printing in silver and in metals. And I said, whoa, I want to make jewelry. So that's when we connect with Max, who's our other co-founder, our CTO. And Max is a brilliant engineer from Rome, college dropout, built companies, just like young guy, like really, really smart. And I'm like, Max, I need an engineer. I need someone to build this, please. And he wasn't really into the idea of like a business with customizable jewelry. So he didn't have the motivation. He was like, okay, well, we'll do something. And I kept like dragging him through like, let's build this. And I started like selling this 3D printed jewelry on the side and like the job I had at the time at the office, to the girls. And it was like nothing, but it was just fun. And Matteo comes up with the idea of 8 Sleep. So as we're just all sort of like playing around with these things, he comes up with the idea more with the problem. He started having issues with his sleep, and he realized that there was no company building solutions to actually help you sleep better.
What year was that?
That was 2014.
Oh, wow. The first time I heard about sleep as a wellness concept, right, was in 2017 when that book, Why We Sleep, came out. So fascinating that he really saw it as something that is so necessary. So once he started experiencing his own trouble, that he started going into understanding, like the weight of sleep.
Trying to understand. Because what happened is he starts digging into it and trying to use wearables. There was no Apple Watch at the time. There was obviously no Auras, no Whoops, none of that. There was Fitbit, who was starting to do sleep tracking. There was a company called Jawbone that went out of business. And so I remember he would wear these things throughout the night, and he would try to make sense of the very basic information they were providing at the time. And he realized very quickly, none of these companies are building for sleep. And most importantly, once I have the data, I don't know what to do.
Right.
And so that is the premise of what we do at 8 Sleep and what we still believe, which is technology should be used to help you actually sleep better. It goes beyond the data. And Max, our co-founder, said, here's what we could do. Like, we could put sensors, we could do actuation, which is actually
Did he get a little bit more excited than about the jewelry?
He loved it.
Okay.
He loved it. He's still with us, so he still loves it. But yes, he definitely got more excited.
Did you buy into the concept right away? No,
absolutely
You're like,
not.
What are we making exactly?
Well, the worst part is that the two of them started working on this. Each of them had exited their businesses that they were building at the time. So Matteo from renewables, Max from data. And I had a job. I had like a regular job at a fintech company. And I would hear them, like they would do these these calls. Max was based in San Francisco. We were in New York. The guys would like talk about this, and they decided on their own that they were going to call the company Morphy, Morphy, because of the god of sleep, Morpheus. They're Italians. And I was like, guys, this is a terrible name. Terrible. People are going to think you're calling it morphine. No. We love it. We love it. So,
and you're like, and this is where my communication degree is coming into place. Step aside.
And so then they decided that they were going to they made a prototype. They were going to show it to some friends. That this is an infamous story at 8 Sleep, which is they threw a pajama party at Max's house in San Francisco. They invited a bunch of like their Italian friends in tech that worked at different tech companies. And they said, come dressed in your pajamas and we'll show you this thing that we build. And I made a presentation for them with this Morphe name and sort of explaining what this product was. And they showed it to some friends. And one of their friends at the end of the dinner, after seeing the prototype, said, okay, guys, I'll give you, this is a very Silicon Valley story, I'll give you a check for $25,000 if you end up building a company, cash it. If you don't, just, rip it. And these two entrepreneurs were like, well, this is interesting. Maybe we should try. They had just sold companies. They had like no jobs and they decided to do it.
So they weren't like completely sold on the idea of building. They just built they were playing around. They just wanted to see.
So it started.
When did you officially get into the mix?
Like a few months later, they decided, okay, we're going to incorporate the company and we need someone who's going to sell this product. This is going to be like a consumer hardware product. And I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to involve this, at the time, maybe 24-year-old who had never done that in her life. And I said, okay, well, I love you guys. And I think you guys are smart and great. And they convinced me because at that point, they had really evolved the story. They had really understood that this technology that they had prototyped could do more than just improve sleep. With all the data that you have while people sleep, we could actually start understanding your health. And by understanding your health, we could get to the point where a device that is in your bed can save your life. And that is what resonated with me because just a few months before, my dad had passed away from colon cancer. And he passed, it was a span of 4 months from when he got diagnosed to when he passed away.
I'm so sorry.
And it was that moment in my life where I'm like, okay, this just happened. And I saw what he went through and how that journey was for him, for my mom, for my brother who was still living at home. And I thought, maybe this is it. Like, this is the moment where I should like take this risk and like leave my job where I have a good salary and jump into this crazy venture. And I said, if you guys trust me that I can figure this out, like, I don't know exactly how to do it, but if you're trusting me, like, we'll learn and I'll give it my all. And we made this pact and we formed the company.
Can you give us like a basic understanding? How does this technology work? It's a mattress cover.
Yes.
It's a pod. Give me like a very 101 explanation.
Yeah, so we created the technology in a way where you don't have to change your bed. If you love your mattress, your pillow, your bed frame, whatever you have, you can keep that. And you add this mattress cover, just like a fitted sheet, to your existing mattress. It's like a 1-inch thick piece of foam, very comfortable. It has all the technology embedded in it. It has sensors. It has like the hydro-powered tech in there. And what that means, just the very fancy word, but it's essentially we're using water to regulate the temperature of each side of the bed while you sleep. So you have this device, this hub next to the bed between your nightstand and your bed. You just leave it there. That houses the water. And then automatically there's all these settings that you've set up in your 8 Sleep app that will make sure that the bed is at the perfect temperature for you by the time you get in bed. When you're in the middle of the night, it'll adjust automatically during the night multiple times. If your bedroom gets warmer, it gets colder. And then that was sort of the premise of it, temperature regulation, because it is so key to driving the right outcomes for sleep quality. Then we added elevation. There's an optional bass you can add. So if you or your partner snore, actually it'll lift automatically when it detects snoring to stop the snoring, and then it goes back down. Then we just introduced sound. So you have like relaxing sounds that play just from an embedded speaker. And we added a blanket to give you a full cocoon. And so it's that constant innovation is always asking ourselves, what else can we design for the perfect sleep experience?
Mind-blowing. All I think about is how, what is the third co-founder? Max. All I see is like Matteo and Max just sitting there, like coming up with these details. I'm like, where does this come from even? Like,
so I'll tell you another story because this just happened. And this was the perfect example of what we call 8 Sleep speed. When you're a startup and you're going against the incumbents, right? The big companies that make billions of dollars in revenue a year, your only advantage is speed. just have to move as fast as possible. And so we developed this new product that is not up for sale. So don't ask me about it, but it was developed specifically for Charles Leclerc, who's a Ferrari F1 driver, and he's one of our ambassadors and investors in the company. And Matteo came up with this idea. Matteo, Max, and I were together at the Miami Grand Prix, and we were meeting with Charles and his team, and it was very hot, as it is in Miami once May hits. And Matteo said, oh, these cooling vests that the Formula One drivers are using are actually not the most effective way to cool them down, because you should be cooling down the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. There's specific points in the body that if you cool them down would actually give you more of that feeling of freshness. Chatted with the team, sort of brainstorm, would he use them, when would he use them before he gets in the car, etc. And then like 2 weeks passed, we had a prototype of these functioning bag that would cool these gloves that we made custom for him, which he just wore a few days ago in Barcelona for the GP. And there were all these photos of him with these gloves and our logo. We're like, this is it. This is what we do, because we know temperature and we know technology. And so we can develop something using our expertise to help now athletes. So
when I started learning more about your mission and just seeing the research and data that you bring, I was like, oh, this takes a lot of effort if you don't have the assistance of the pod.
You know, the reason why it takes the effort is because we're these like humans that evolved from, many thousands, tens of thousands of years to become what we are today biologically. But it will take us many more thousands of years to get used to the environments that we sleep in today. We have these very comfortable memory foam mattresses that retain heat. And temperature is the number one factor, environmental factor, that gets in the way of a good night's sleep. If you're too hot or too cold, you're going to struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Wow.
So if you have these very comfortable memory foam mattress or foam, that's going to get in the way. Your bed sheets are weighted blankets, whatever you want to add to the mix. A lot of women sleep with socks on. And so you're basically trapping all that temperature inside your little cocoon that you've created. Sometimes when you share a bedroom, you'll have maybe a partner that feels like they want the bedroom colder and you're freezing. And so you put more heavier pajamas, and all of these things just get in the way of what nature is supposed to do, which is regulate the body temperature on its own to keep you asleep. You
said that sleep is the most underrated pillar of wellness. So at what point did you realize the magnitude of sleep? Because I'm very immersed in like the wellness and health. And I feel like I only understood the importance and like what a huge pillar it is, I would say this year.
I don't think I fully understood the importance of it until maybe around 5 years ago, because you're right that the conversation on sleep has changed a ton. We've been building this company for 10 years and we've seen that change. The first 5 years versus these last 5 years have been very different for the business and for the conversation on sleep.
Yeah.
So no one cared about sleep before. We were like the ugly duckling of the companies and, no one wanted to invest in us.
It's not sexy, right? So I can only imagine when you're trying to raise capital being like, you guys,
we're going to put this thing on your
sleep.
bed. Yeah. No, it's like they would compare us to just, you're a mattress company and it's just terrible. And now it has changed. I think a lot of companies that are doing great work advocating for this have made a difference. A lot of the conversations happening, social media and content, books,
medical field. So many doctors are starting to talk about it, which is amazing. So I feel like it comes from a lot of different directions.
It is. And it is because the research is advancing. I think companies like us, with all the data that we have, we're going to be discovering even more things, more interesting things. The one point where we all converge is that it is the most important pillar of health. Like, you would die sooner of sleep deprivation than food deprivation. We have to think about that in the way that we approach our days and how we plan around giving our bodies enough time to rest and recover. And sleep is the way for the body to achieve what it needs to achieve every day.
We also live at a time where we measure performance. We're talking about biohacking, optimization. We're putting more and more wants and needs on our plates. And I think that something's got to give. Sleep is usually the first thing that gives, but then you discover later on how it is the foundation of all of it. And the terminology, and I don't know at when you guys started using it, but Sleep Fit. So it was so fascinating how now it became like its own measure that you want to pay attention to.
So this idea of sleep fitness came up out of the need of describing what is our category, because we didn't fit anywhere. We were not mattress, we were not bedding, we were not a wearable, we're like, well, what are we? And so we came up with this concept that we are a sleep fitness company, and being sleep fit means being healthy in your sleep. And so we created this vocabulary, and we gave the language to people to describe when you are healthy in your sleep, you're sleep fit. Just as you can be sleep deprived, you can be sleep fit.
Like the repositioning is so brilliant because it also came at a very good time. Like especially this, and you said it, you saw a difference in the past 5 years, how the company even being accepted and perceived and by audience and consumers. But I feel like you had time to build that story and understand the values just at the right time.
Yes.
As I feel like everyone now that are starting to get into the market to learn how to speak to a product like that, to try to find a category. I mean, there's a lot going on now. Now in tech, like wellness tech. There's a lot. So many things happening.
Yeah, there is a lot, but what we find, even as we're building new products and we run our research with our customers or potential customers, is that people are still very much hungry for companies that speak grounded in truth. Customers, at least our segment of customers, are always asking for the validation and the data and the evidence. And so I do think the wellness space is very crowded, but there's only a small portion of companies that are devoting the resources to actually run the research, to document that, to show proof of what they're delivering. And that's where the market is going. It takes more effort to do things right. But there's more and more brands that are going to move in that direction because consumers are getting smarted about it.
In terms of the research and the data, what are some findings that were amazing to you to learn?
Sleep deprivation is like the new smoking, we like to say. It really is, because it's this like silent killer. Right? We don't realize it. As you were saying, we have these like busy lives. And the one thing that we tend to put at the end is sleep. I'll do everything else. And then if whatever time I have left, I'm going to sleep. So we do find very interesting stats, especially when you start breaking it down by different age groups and gender as well, right? Like women below the age of 44 who have children, they'll sleep less than men in that same age group, right? And so when you start getting more into the segmentation, you'll find some interesting patterns. We specialize in also understanding what are these actuations, which is all the things that we can change for you on your behalf to help you sleep better. Temperature, elevation, sound. We'll do many others in the future. So we've really mastered this understanding of temperature and sleep. And for us women, I always say, our product, but any product that's helping you regulate temperature or understand the temperature of your body is really, really important, because our body temperature, basal body temperature, changes so much because we have this beautiful thing in our cycle.
Right.
And we go through so much variation, and we see that in the data, how women going through pregnancy suddenly start dropping the temperatures of their bed because they're feeling warmer. And then they have the baby, and now they go through a bit of a crazy phase with hormones. And then there's like the postpartum where they finally go back to normal. And, it's like all these journeys that we go through as a human on a daily basis based on your workouts, how much if you drink alcohol or you have heavy meals, that will affect the temperature for you when you go to bed. That will affect the quality of your sleep. But then also in life, as you age, as you get sick, as you go through these phases of life, especially as women, you'll have things that can, quote unquote, get in the way of getting a good night's sleep. And so you need to be very mindful of those. And we see that in the data very clearly.
So tell me about like what's coming, and especially for women. I know we touched a little bit about specifically how women are experiencing a lot more, and I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but it's harder for us to sleep well. Right?
Yes.
Okay, I can say that. That's a statement I can make. What's coming from 8 Sleep that you feel will help change that?
Yeah, we're making a big push there. And it is because, as you said, women have more challenges to sleep. Women are more likely to suffer from insomnia. And, there's a lot of things that get in the way of good quality sleep as we age as well. So one of the first things that we looked at is we just completed a study. We have an internal clinical team that runs clinical research, and they recruited a bunch of people who have our product. They have the pod at home, and they're also going through perimenopause. And what we looked at is how they experience hot flashes. 80% of women who, well, we will all go through perimenopause and menopause, but 80% of us will have hot flashes, will experience them. And most of the time it happens at night. So we wanted to learn, can we help them? What can we do about this situation? Is there a way in which our technology can be a game changer for them? And what is eye-opening at first is with the data to see how often they're experiencing them, how there's no real pattern, right? Every woman is different. There are some that have a lot of episodes during the night. Some of them have few. Some of them see a very specific pattern, which is maybe they always get hot flashes between 2 and 4 a.m. And so then with that information, we're going to develop features that are going to be software features we can just release to all the existing pods in the field to allow you to tackle your hot flash and change the temperature of your pod when appropriate so that it mitigates that feeling.
Wow.
And the same can be done with the cycle. So now we just did this meta-analysis of data where we can see that women during the follicular phase will actually change the temperature of their pod to mitigate the change that happens naturally in the body. So then we start thinking, oh, like, why don't we just do that automatically, right? So then we're going to build something around that. So it's like one step at a time through data, understanding the nuances and then building for it. There's opportunity in pregnancy as well, because pregnant women will experience usually your heart rate is accelerated, you'll feel warmer, so your temperature during sleep, you'll have different needs.
And for fertility, no?
And for fertility as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
you're doing like big, serious things. It's amazing.
Yes. I'm just here to tell the story, but our team are the ones that are actually doing all of those studies, which is amazing. We have an incredible team of mostly women in our clinical research team who are fighting really hard and advocating for one of the first things they discovered actually years ago is that our primary algorithm that we have, which is autopilot, which is a series of algorithms, but it's really the main piece of intelligence of the pod. They noticed that it was more effective at improving men's sleep versus women. And they're like, what is happening here? Why? And so then they said, okay, it's because most of the training data, when it was developed, we had more male users than women. So how do we change that? How do we make sure that we are creating solutions that are going to help everyone? And that's really our mission at 8 Sleep. It's we know that personalization is going to drive the right outcomes. And so we're digging even deeper within women because we're all so different. Women who are on hormonal birth control will have different temperature needs versus women who are not, right? So it's just fascinating that diversity of challenges that we face, but also modern technology can help us.
Are there any other things that people are over-indexing that you see in the market with sleep that you're just like, that's just a waste of money and, you know, unnecessary?
I think more than anything is you do have to experiment. Everyone is different, but keep it simple. I see, now there's like all the TikTok things around how women go to sleep with things on their head and masks. And I love
like
mouth tape, by the way. I love mouth tape.
You do?
So I love it.
Okay.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Other people may not, but keeping it simple and making sure your body's comfortable. I can't believe that someone's going to bed with 20 head rolls and is actually comfortable, right? So simple, very much focusing on your bedroom being dark and cool and quiet. Those are the basics. And keeping it simple also in light with your pajamas. If you can, just no socks, light pajamas, because your body needs to regulate on its own in terms of temperature. Otherwise, you're going to be waking up in the middle of the night and like taking those socks off and sticking the foot out. And those are micro wake-ups that get in the way of the quality of the sleep.
Okay, I'm making a note of everything. I have a lot of things that I need to change. I actually sleep great. My score's actually been pretty amazing. I'm getting my 8 Sleep text every morning and I'm like, okay, great. So everything is good there because I really am mindful of keeping my circadian rhythm, as operating as best as possible, considering that there's 3 little kids in the house. So you built a company with your husband. You guys raised $160 million. And I don't know if you like to even position it like that, but breaking barriers as a Latina founder, that's a big thing. Is that part of things that you're talking about or not so much?
I don't think about it. That's what's funny. I mean, I don't think of myself every day.
Because I don't think everyone, I agree with you. There's some founders that I meet that are just like, I don't need that. to be part of my story.
Like, I mean, it's me, obviously. I acknowledge it, right? Of course. Like, I grew up in Mexico. My parents are Mexican. I'm Latina. We're probably like 2% of venture dollars go to Latina founders. Like, I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's not what I think about every day when I go to my computer and work and keep, pushing. I don't even think about it as like I'm a woman in tech, but I'm obviously aware of how much harder it is.
Wait, so tell me about that. That's so interesting. That storyline is very present, which is wonderful. Obviously has great effects, brought a lot of awareness and conversations. But I'm curious why for you, that's not what kind of motivates you, or that's not something you lead with.
It's so interesting. I was just seeing this morning the Forbes list of the 100 richest self-made women, right? And so I do love to see media represent us, because maybe many of us wouldn't make it into the other lists. I do think like that representation is important, and telling our own journeys and stories are so valuable, regardless of what type of business you're building. But for me, I think the reason why I don't focus on that is because in my own story, I don't think that that's what made me succeed or what was an obstacle. It just happens to be my story. I definitely know a lot of founders who found it harder to raise money, or found it harder to hire, or had issues of maybe sexual harassment from people in the industry. I did not experience that. And so maybe that's why it's not something that's so top of mind, where I wake up every day and I think like, I'm a female executive building a business.
Really respect that. I find that from the conversations that I'm having, and I'm so fortunate to meet different, people, you do see when it's a communication tool, those stories. And to your point, when it is your story, it's authentic, it flows, people, feel it. Sometimes, people pick it up as something to, this is like the times right now. This is what we talk about. So
and we had a lot of that for a long time.
Yeah.
We ended up building a lot of these successful women entrepreneurs, and there was a lot of pressure for them to look a certain way and dress a certain way and act a certain way. And then we tore them down.
Yes.
And so I also think that it comes with its pros where, they got a lot of this exposure, but then people love to bring down a successful woman for some reason. I don't know why. It's just a human thing. Maybe we find enjoyment in it. We don't think they deserve it. I don't know what happens, but it was really ugly to see. And so I think ultimately we're all here building. We're all here creating great products or great services. That is where the attention should be. And like you said, it's not the moniker of, because I'm a woman, you should be buying from me or you should be supporting me. I hope you do it because you like my product.
Yeah. Women, men, innovators breaking barriers. And like, that's what's empowering, right? We want to empower a generation of innovators based on what they're building. That was really refreshing to hear.
Thank you. I'm glad I shared it. And hopefully it starts a conversation in that direction.
Yeah, because I think we're ready. Tell me about building a company with your husband. I also work closely with my husband, and I've learned a lot about communication. I learned a lot about boundaries, and I'm still learning. I'm so curious how it works, especially with an industry like tech.
So I think there's two sides to it. One is how we have made things work for us. We've been building this company for 10 years now. He's the CEO. I oversee everything growth, brand, marketing. So I drive the revenue, drive the money, build the brand. So it's a very tight relationship. Whoever was doing his job or my job would have to work very closely. But it's also very like high stakes, high pressure type of relationship because, when the money doesn't come in a business, there's no business. So it's very delicate, and we've learned a lot about how to make it work. I think the first thing is that we understand, and it was harder for me than it was for him, but to delineate that whatever was happening at work wasn't reflective of how he felt about me in our personal life. Initially that was harder for me to be like, well, maybe I'm not doing well at work on something, or I don't agree with him on something, and we maybe had some discussion, and then I would sort of take it personal and feel like there was a rejection of love in a sense. And I had to really work on that on my own to separated, and it came from building more confidence in my abilities at work as well. So the more confident I felt and the more I saw that I was succeeding and being able to deliver, it just sort of naturally flowed to like, okay, it's not me, it's the work I'm doing, but that's, the work is not me. That has helped us a lot. And so we also keep split lines of communication. So on Slack, which we use as a company, it's all work, Slack, email. But then for personal things, we just use, text, WhatsApp, anything else.
That's actually a really nice idea that I think we're going to implement.
It's great. Because you can be fighting on one and you can be, deciding dinner on the other one.
The communication on Slack is very direct to the point. There's no...
Yes.
I like it. Were there any moments for you in this 10 years where you're like, I don't know if I can do this?
Absolutely. There were probably, I can remember at least 2 of them where this was many years ago, but I would just be like breaking down and I would tell him like, I can't do this. And I'd be crying to like, I can't, I really can't. It's just, I don't like it. I'm not enjoying it. The journey of self-growth comes in these like spurts where you go up and then you plateau and then you have to go up and you plateau. And those plateaus are very, very difficult. And that, I don't know if you've heard the phrase where the rock breaks in the last time that the hammer hits it.
No.
So it's basically, you don't know when the rock's going to break. You just have to keep hitting it, right? And so you don't know what's next for you in that personal development. You just have to keep going. You have to keep pushing and challenging yourself.
This is a very interesting point because I don't meet often women that work with their husbands that talk about that. That's something that is present in my relationship. And I always think about how lucky I am that I have someone by my side that's also my business partner that is able to push me forward even when it seems like I'm about to break, because I've discovered the biggest strength because of that. And to me, that's one of my biggest assets that I have. And that's a hard one to digest for a lot of people. I had Gary on my podcast often and, we film content. So people see those interactions and it triggers women, especially. Because if you don't know that dynamic.
Because they will say, oh, he's like pushing you or how he's talking.
Pushing, control, is things like that, where I always like said and thought about it, like, how do I explain the feeling that he's like my greatest teacher because I'm able to go into places that I would naturally, or any person naturally wouldn't push themselves because it's so uncomfortable.
Like, it's so cool to have a life where there is someone who, like you described it, is a sort of teacher, but a teacher of showing you who you are and what you have inside of you. And maybe you just didn't know it yet, which is the journey of life. It is about realizing your full potential in who you are.
It's cool to see how, not everybody built for that type of relationships.
No.
Any other lessons you picked up or things that you've heard that really kind of changed the chemistry of your brain?
Yeah, there's another one from Vinod that I always talk about, which is the team you build is the company you build. And so when you're building any business, no matter how small it may be, you have to pay a lot of attention to who you have as a team, because that's the output. Like for us, we're able to build 8 Sleep because we have an incredible team of people and we love our team, and they're very smart people who work really, really hard. And it's not just the founders, it's an entire team who does this.
The brand is developing. You guys continuing to innovate. I'm sure you're already working on things that will come out in 3, 4, 5 years. So there's a lot of, kind of thinking ahead. How are you managing to just also be here and enjoy the ride? Be creative, because that's really your, superpower in the company as well, being able to communicate and tell the brand story. How do you manage to keep yourself in check?
So as a couple, we go to bed together, we wake up together. So that helps because then we don't interrupt each other, right? Like the light and this and that and the noise. And so it's like this routine. We don't have kids yet. So I know people sometimes are like, well, you guys sleep a lot because you don't have kids. Yes, thankfully.
Enjoy it while you can.
Exactly. We enjoy it for now. And we live generally a life of balance. I think that's something that I learned a lot from Matteo. His Italian side really shines. So like just eating healthy, nothing crazy, right? But just sticking to healthy diets, understanding what are the things that we like and our bodies like. I learned a lot about my body as a woman in the last few years as we went through freezing embryos and that whole process. And it was very eye-opening, I would say. And I changed the way I eat and the way I just think about me being different from my husband, and I can't live the same life and do the same activities. And so it's balance, I would say, the word, what keeps me in check. And I think a lot about energy in a day. Maybe a day like yesterday, I was at the phone from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. back-to-back calls. But a day like today, it may be 3 hours of calls, right? I can't go at the same speed every single day because it's just not sustainable. And as you were saying, I won't be able to be creative and make the right decisions if I don't manage my energy.
The biggest lesson to learn as an entrepreneur, as a woman, and as a creative, to be able to really accept the idea that not every day looks the same, and you need to also step back in order, to go full force the next day or the next week. We speak, especially as women, we speak a lot about this word balance, but to me, balance is having the awareness to know when to step back and when to step forward. Like that's, the emotional and physical intelligence that you need more than anything else.
And it's one of the reasons why I always advocate for women, if you're able to, or you have the opportunity to build your own business, because I think that gives you freedom to define your schedule and to design that life.
Yeah.
Because whether we like it or not, if you want to be a mother, if you want to build a family, you will need to shape your life differently than men do.
Yeah, because we are fighting right now a system that's not there to accommodate us, right? So you have to, it's true, it's these open conversations that plant the seed for the future generation, because life can look very different.
Very different. I mean, we grew up looking at the 90s and the shows where it was about being the corporate woman and, delaying everything else in life and whatnot. And that's not reality. A lot of us want to have many of these things coexist.
Yeah.
And so you have to plan it.
Especially now, I mean, they're building robots to replace us all in corporate America and all these places, So we really need to hone
other skills,
creativity and other skills 100%. So from everything you've learned about health and ambition and the human body, what's one piece of advice you would give someone who's running on empty but doesn't have an option to slow down?
I definitely empathize. I mean, I have family members or friends who live a very different life than I do. And so I can feel that. And people who are multiple jobs and running on empty, can't take a break. Something that has helped me in the last couple of years is to go to spirituality. I've never been a meditation person. My brain just cannot. Maybe at some point I'll get to it. But prayer and reflection through my faith has really grounded me. And I think it has helped me, which is what I would suggest to people going through a circumstance like that, reframe difficulties as just a phase.
Today when I was getting dressed, I shot a video. And one of the things I was thinking about is we need more, and that has nothing to do with your advice. Your advice is beautiful. But I was thinking to myself, because I was scrolling earlier on social media and there's all this really motivational stuff. And I'm I think we need something. I think we need a demotivating motivation videos, of harsh reality that sometimes even if you try really hard, it's not going to happen. And that's just, there's also some power to this idea that life is it is what it is. And, to your point, back to the beginning of just looking at failures as opportunities and not placing so much weight. I think that's what we do. We place so much weight on every decisions that we make, every step we make, and we live in a time now where we are continuing to enforce our individuality. And I think something beautiful with faith is that it kind of takes you away from that individual bubble.
'Cause it's not about you.
It's not about you. It's the larger. So that's my connection. I was we need a motivation videos and faith.
Because you're right that so much of what we consume now with motivation is about you.
Yeah, everything.
Just us as humans are complex and difficult, but it's not about you. Like,
It's not
let
about
go, surrender in the hands of the creator, whatever you believe in, the energy, the universe. It's going to bring you so much peace.
Amen. I love that. Any books that really stuck with you throughout the years? It can be business or personal.
So there's actually a quote from a book. Now that you were talking about this, like, in social media and what we see with motivation, a book that I read, I think last summer, which is Barbara Walters' Audition. It's her autobiography. It's great. I grew up watching her. I grew up watching Oprah Winfrey. I feel like these women mentored me without knowing me. And I loved her book, highly recommended. And one of the things that she says in the book that really stuck with me is she talks about how as she succeeded, young women would come to her and say like, oh, like, can I become you? How can I be like you? And she says that in life, you should never be willing to trade places or want to be someone unless you are going to take the whole package, the whole thing, not her work success and her fame or her money, the whole thing, her upbringing, her failed marriages, her divorces, her, being let go at work or betrayed, whatever it was, all the stories she tells in the book, right? And that is so real, because when we open our phones and we see other people's lives, I think it's very inspiring, but most people are comparing themselves and it's like a shot to their confidence. Just remember that unless you're going to take the whole package, most of which you don't see, you shouldn't be desiring to be that other person.
That's a good quote. I am very excited to read that book. That's so up my alley. This was so insightful. Alexandra, thank you so much for coming and joining me. I appreciate you being so open. Can you share with the audience where they can learn more about 8 Sleep and about you? I don't know if you...
I don't share a lot because I'm usually
You're busy.
boring live on Zooms. But they can find us on Instagram as 8 Sleep. They can find me with my name as well on Instagram. But yeah, we're always love hearing from people who have our products or part of our community, who want our products, have questions, any ways in which we can help them sleep better. That's what our sleep fitness movement is about.
I love it. Okay, everybody need to get sleep fit immediately. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't miss my newest episode right here. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, please go and leave a review with your biggest takeaway. I love reading your thoughts. They inspire me. So if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you can leave them in the comment section. And always remember, you are not alone.